have 45 rooms, 18 bedrooms. Our park/garden is 3,000 acres. There's a lot of people, when I say castle, they're just like, oh yeah, she's just bragging about talking like a big house. I'm like, no, I literally live in a medieval castle. My name is Ludovica Sannazzaro. I am 21 years old. I live in a medieval castle that it's been in my family since its construction in 1163. I find like every day can be an adventure here. There's always going to be something that you've never seen before. We have tons of like old pictures. We have a hat collection. We have a beautiful piano from the 1800s. I had tons of parties in the castle. I had Halloween parties in the dungeons. Every way you look, there's just something that you're gonna feel kind of connected and interested in. Someone asked me if they could come here and see if they could find sweat from the old clothes because they collected it. The castle was built because 4 knights of my family, the Sannazzaro family, received a diploma from the Emperor Friedrich I, Federico Barbarossa, because of their merits in war. That gave them permission to build a castle wherever they wanted in their lands. So they built this castle in this it was a very strategical point at the time, because we are between Piedmont, where we still are, where it is the castle right now, but we're on the border with Lombardy, and at the time it was really important to have like this strategical position. So the castle at the beginning, it was more of a fortress for like wars and to protect the city, the town. The people from the town used the castle quite a few times when there were like situations like maybe some wars and stuff like that, and they would come in the castle and stay in the castle. So it was much more of a fortress at the beginning, as it is normally when you build a castle in medieval times. That's the main purpose. But then it was passed down generation to generation. And of course, it went through a lot of changing in history, because it almost has 900 years. It was never of my grandparents. It passed down from my great aunt directly to my dad, and then it will pass down to me and my brother. People have an interesting assumption of how my life is outside of the castle. Well, first of all, people think that I don't have a life outside of the castle. That is the main thing. Like they're all like, oh, if I had a castle, I would stay in there for like every day, every single second of my life. And I'm like, trust me, you wouldn't, because first of all, it's not life. And we learned so much that we know that there's so much like outside of this place. But yeah, probably a lot of people like under my videos are like, oh my god, this is like the Princess Diaries, it's like Frozen, like they give all the different inspo, and I'm like, yeah, it can be kind of that because of the place where I live, but life-wise it's completely different. A lot of people don't even think that I can have like normal friends. They're all like, oh, you just have like nobles friends, aristocracy, royals, and I'm like, no, my friends are my friends from middle school and high school and college, as everybody else's friends. And when I went to New York, everybody was so mad at me. They were like, why would you do that? You live in a castle and you went to New York. And I was like, yeah, because I want to study musical theater, and I know that the best place to do that, it's in New York, and the castle is not going anywhere. It's still there, and it's still my home, and whenever I go back, I'm gonna go there. And my parents still live there, and if you want to go see it, you can go to our bed and breakfast or to our guided tour, so it's still there. But everybody was like, how could you do that? We don't want a city life, we just want your princess life. And it's funny, because it's kind of like it's true, like inside of me there's two sides. I have like this castle life and the city life, and I decided to share on my TikTok just the castle life, because I think it's important to tell the story, to tell the history, but it's always fun to see how people can assume that the only part of your life is that, when there is so much more. This is my home, this is just how it is. Even though like some people, especially when I was younger, were like, oh my god, this is like, you live in Disney, you're like a Disney princess. I cannot tell if you want to be friends with me just because I live in a castle, and I'm not gonna let that happen. And I've heard a lot of people like during my life being like, oh, I'm gonna marry you, so I'm gonna have all your money. No, I don't believe in Prince Charming, to be honest. Nobody can even start imagining how much it costs to maintain a place like this. We always say this place is a baby. You have to take care of it all the time. We've decided on like a scheme on how to clean the castle. I'm just gonna clean the bedrooms upstairs, so just the bedrooms. Then you take a couple days off and you're like, okay, now we're gonna start the ballroom, and then we're gonna start the main entrance. Like, you have to take off all the dust. You have to clean everything, and it's hard. Everybody was like, oh, do you have maids? Do you have butlers? No, of course not. It's just us. We're nothing, like we're just a normal family. And so I started doing this series that actually was one of the most virals and most successful on my TikTok page. That was like how people think ... is living in a castle versus how it actually is. So kind of expectations versus reality. And I kind of started to break that idea, that idealized way of living in a castle. And people don't really like it. Actually, they prefer most of the times the expectations that are more like, they're more aesthetic, they're more like similar to what it used to be in the past. Yes, it used to be like that. I'm not gonna say that it's not true. Like, it used to be very like a lot of maids, a lot of butlers, a lot of like fancy gowns, and just like being with other people of their same like title. But they're like, times have changed. We're a republic in Italy. Aristocracy is not part like of the govern anymore. The coolest thing of living in a castle is absolutely the history of it. You have all the like vintage dresses. You go in the archive and you find one of the first printed books in history. I think that's just like, it's important again to have a balance between showing just like the aesthetic, the magical atmosphere, the magical point of view, and the reality of it. I've received so many insults, of course, but that's a given. Like, you know, when you start social media, unfortunately, you have to deal with a lot of it. People just think that, oh, because you live in a castle, then you still live probably like in the 1600s. Every time I go somewhere for a long time, for a short period, it doesn't matter. Like, when I come back, I just feel in my place. This is my place. This is our place, of my family's place. And it can be weird for a lot of people, but for me, it's just like every time, you know, when you're away from home for a little bit and then you come back to the familiarity of it, to the familiar smells, your bed, all the things that you've grown up with. It's just amazing.